because of cheating one another merely for with money.
Because of cheating one another merely
For money. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Translation. Please follow. Sometimes the living entity is busy counteracting the natural disturbances of freezing cold, scorching heat, strong wind, excessive rainfall, and so forth. When he is unable to do so, he becomes very unhappy. Sometimes he is cheated in business transactions one after another. In this way, by cheating, living entities create enmity among themselves. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This is an example of the struggle for existence, the attempt to counteract the onslaught of material nature. This creates enmity in society, and consequently society is filled with envious people. One person is envious of another, and this is the way of material world. The Krishna conscious movement aims at creating an atmosphere of non-envy. Of course, it is not possible for everyone to become Krishna consciousness, but the Krishna conscious movement can create an exemplary society wherein there is no envy. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Sopadantikam. Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Uttapadakkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavancham Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Lagitas Vishakhanvitancha Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalitam Shri Vishakhanvitancha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rushabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpataru Vesha Krupa Sindhu Vevacha Munibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vācānam pangam langayate giri yat kripa tamaham vande Sri Guru Dinataranam. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we are reading from the chapter Canto 5, chapter 13, Shlok number 11, and the title is of this chapter particularly Raghugana converses with the Jad Bharat. So, particularly in this canto 5, Sukadeva Goswami begins with the discussion about. So, in the 4th canto, he talks about Swayambhu Manu's one son. How many sons Swayambhu Manu had? Who was the Dhruva Maharaj's father? Uttanpad. So, Sukadeva Goswami talks about Uttanpad in canto 4. And in 5th canto, he talks about his another son. What is his name? Priyavrata. Very good. So, that is the canto 5 begins with the description about Priyavrata. So, if you see, Priyavrata has canto 5, chapter 1, he talks about Priyavrata. And Priyavrata had a son, his name was Agnidra. And this is the first son of Priyavrata, who ruled this Jambu Dvipa, and then he married with the Purva Chitti, and he got 9 sons. And those 9 sons became the ruler of the Jambu Dvipa Varsha. And the first son of Agnidhara, his name was Navi. And Navi ruled the Bharatvarsh. And by sacrifice, he did a sacrifice to have a son like a personality of Godhead. So there is nothing like the equal to personality God. The personality of Godhead has to appear. And that's what his son was? Rishabhadev. And Rishabhadev had how many sons? 100 sons. And his eldest son was Bharat Maharaj. And Bharat Maharaj ruled this Bharat Varsha. He performed austerities as Pulaha Ashrama. And then he attached, that he went to there. And then somehow he renounced the whole empire. And then he went to the ashram, but somehow or the other he got attached to deer. And then what happened? He fall down, or he deviated from the path of devotional service, and then he become a deer. And in next janma, or next incarnation, or next life, he became a Jad Bharat. And that is where we are actually here. So if you see, canto 5, chapter 1 talks about Priyavrata. Chapter 2 talks about Agnidra. Chapter 3 talks about Navi. Chapter 4 to 6 talks about Rishabhadev and his wonderful activities. And then chapter 7, chapter 8 talks about Bharat Maharaj. And then from chapter 9 to chapter 14 talks about Jad Bharat. And from 14 onwards becomes very technical about the Jambu Dvipa. So now we have one more chapter which will have pastimes, and after that becomes very technical. So this last 4 chapter where Jad Bharat, we know Jad Bharat in the 9th chapter, Sukadeva Goswami talks about the characteristics of Jad Bharat. And the Jad Bharat, how externally he was appearing for the people like a mad, but internally he was completely focused on Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was not bothered about anything about the external things. Even the people were considering him as mad, were considering him as a fool, but he was not bothered because he knew that he learned a mistake. He learned by mistake. He had learned his lesson of his life, because he did not want this life to deviate even a moment from the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he was very focused. Unalloyed devotional service. Srila Prabhupada coined the word as unalloyed. He did not want to deviate even for a moment. So he was very focused. And then, that he was actually going, and suddenly there was a king called Rahugana. And Rahugana had a palanquin. So that time we can understand there was no vehicles, no car. So the king was actually traveling in palanquin. And the palanquin was carried by 4 big and stout people. So at that time they had a short of 1 person. So they found that this Jad Bharat was like, very young, stout, and very well built. So I think this could be a right fit for carrying the palanquin. And so then they take Jad Bharat for their carrying the palanquin. But Jad Bharat was such a wonderful devotee that he did not want even to step on an ant. So while carrying the palanquin, he was moving from this end to avoid the to step on the to step on an ant. So he was moving the palanquin like this and like this, and that irritated the king. And immediately, when the king got irritated, the other three people said, no, 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 it is not us. It is the Jad Bharat, because this is what happens in life. If something goes, first thing that we say that it is not us. Somebody else is there. So they gave a warning, just like in office we get the first warning. So he got the first warning, please better be perform well. And again, Jad Bharat did not bother about all those things. He was such a wonderful devotee. He again started doing the same thing. And now this time, King Rahugana really got irritated, and he started scolding. And once he started scolding, Jad Bharat just smiled, and then discussion happens. And then Jad Bharat actually tells him that you are thinking you are actually king and I am a soldier. Who knows, in next life I became a king and you become a soldier. So don't get attached to these temporary designations. These temporary designations are fit as long as we have this material body. The moment this material body is actually vanquished or vanished, there is no question of having all this designation. This designation becomes a zero, void, and it has no meaning, absolutely this. So then Rahugana started hearing from Jad Bharat. Initially he thought he's a fool, rascal, he doesn't know anything. When Jad Bharat opened his mouth, and then he realized that he's not an ordinary personality, he must be a great person. And immediately Rahugana surrendered to Jad Bharat, and that is where the discussions of chapter 10, discussion between Jad Bharat and Maharaj Rahugana. Chapter 11, Jad Bharat instructs Rahugana, and the chapter 12, conversation between Rahugana and Jad Bharat. And then this chapter is further talks between King Rahugana and Jad Bharat. So there are 4 chapters about this King Rahugana and Jad Bharat. So in this particular chapter, here now this allegorical story is actually being told. Now in 4th canto also there was allegorical story was actually mentioned. So do you remember when was that allegorical story was mentioned in 4th canto? Prachin Narvid. Prachin Narvid was actually the father of Prachetas, and he was completely engaged in the Karma Kanda section, and Narad Muni saw that he will not learn if I give a direct instruction. So then he gave a allegorical story, and that allegorical story was about Puranjana, and that Puranjana was none other than a living entity. So Puranjana was a kind of when you say allegorical story, it is an imaginary character, or just to give some lesson. Sometimes what happened, if you tell directly, there is maybe possibility, Kapilji, that one may get angry. So that time we have to give some allegorical way or some indirect way of giving the instruction. So Prabhupada used to say sometimes that if a mother-in-law has to give an instruction to a daughter-in-law, she is to give instruction to her daughter. So that way indirectly the message should be passed to. So similarly, Narad Muni gave an allegorical story to Prachin Narvid, who is the father of Prachetas, and he was that Puranjana was none other than a living entity, and he was living or residing in a city, and that city had a Navadwaram Deha. So that city was actually having the Nav gates, and that city is none other than the body. And then he got married and he had a wife. What was that wife? Compared to the intelligence of the living entity. And then the story goes. Similarly, here also now Jad Bharat is going to explain an allegorical story starting from the shloka number 1 to shloka number 19. The allegorical story actually continues, metaphorical story continues after continues. So today, as a recap, we'll go through all these 10 shlokas which are before our shloka that we are discussed today, that is shloka number 11. And so upon the request of Parikshit Maharaj, Sukadeva Goswami gives the meaning of all this allegorical story in the 14th chapter. So the 13th chapter, Jad Bharat just gives the the story, and in the 14th chapter Sukadeva Goswami gives the meaning. What does it mean? Because sometimes we will not even understand the story, what it actually means, what was the intention of that story. So the meaning is already explained in the chapter 14. So today what we will do now, we will go one by one the shloka, starting from the shloka number 1 of chapter 13, canto number 5. So here now the story is a very sad story, but it is a very real and the factual story about all of us as a living entity. So Jad Bharat begins with a merchant, and that merchant enters into the forest. So that is the shloka number 1. The merchant enters into a forest. Now I would ask that what Jad Bharat actually is telling the story to Rahugana, and you have to tell what it means to all of us. Of course, in 14th chapter, Sukadeva Goswami tell to Parikshit Maharaj, and while going through all these shlokas, there could be possibility that shloka is have a direct meaning. There is not indirect meaning, there is a direct meaning. So now the first thing he says that there was a merchant who enters in a forest to acquire articles or goods to sell later to a profit. So merchant, what is the business of a merchant? So he acquires some goods and then he sells in a bigger price or for a profit. However, he cannot really achieve happiness within this material world. So this is the first shloka of the canto 5, chapter 13, shloka number 1, where merchant is entering into the forest, acquiring some goods from the retailer so that he can sell to the end customer with the profit. So what does it mean? Sorry? Okay. What does it mean? So he sells that we can enjoy. Okay. He does a business transaction using the Google Pay. Happiness. He enters into the forest for achieving for the happiness. Okay, now hint here. Merchant is compared to the living entity.
Living entity come to this loka just to enjoy for the independent nature and propensity of.
Very good. So thanks to Matas. Give a round of applause to Matas. So this conditioned soul enters in this material world. What is the purpose of entering in this material world? Happiness. Just like that merchant wanted to get some profit, we also think that we will get a happiness in this material world, but we become a conditioned by Maya and we struggle in the different types of bodies and baffle in the search of happiness. Finally, we did not get the happiness, just like the merchant did not get the happiness. Okay, this is the first shloka. In the second shloka, thus this merchant enters into the forest and he does not know how to spend his money, and all his money is taken away by these plunderers. 6 plunderers under the misguided merchant. So there are 6 plunderers who are actually taking away all his money what he earned by earning that profit. 6 senses or 6 anarthas. So it is said that, so sometimes we may earn some money for advancement of Krishna consciousness, but our uncontrolled senses will oblige to send all this money for sense gratification. And in Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter said that even if we have one sense which we let it lose, it can actually take away our consciousness. So sometimes we may think that, okay, once I earn lot of money for Krishna consciousness, then I will actually very fixed, then I do not have to earn money. But be ready that there are 6 plunderers are ready to take away all your hard earned money. Okay, in the second shloka, the next line talks about there are some other plunderers which are like when the merchant is inattentive, there are 6 plunderers like tigers, jackal, ferocious animals in that forest are ready to take away the lamb from the custody of its protector. Jackals under the inattentive merchant. One round of applause to Mataji. So who are these? So somehow the senses, he could escape himself from the senses, but there are other ferocious animals waiting to plunder all his hard-earned money. That's none other than the family members of miserly man may take away all his wealth, though he tries to guard it, giving the password to the credit card, giving all kinds of protective measures, but still there are some plunderers ready to take away the hard-earned money of maybe the husband or wife. Anyway, but spouse is the right word instead of just saying one way. Shloka number 3. In the Shloka 3, it is said that now there are dense bowers. Bowers means shade, composed of the thickets of bushes, grass and creepers. So now he is already plundered. He did not have any money, but somehow he continues his journey. It's a very sad story, but in the sad story, it is very deep and profound lesson for all of us. It's a journey for all of us that we actually go through all those things. Now he want to have a shade, so he go through the shade of all the bushes, grass and creepers. So what does it mean? Relationship. So Prabhu says it's imaginary, there is grass, creepers, there is no shade. Prabhupada translates here is that the thicket bowers and where there are grass and creepers. So what does it mean? Prabhu is saying that imaginary happiness.
People who are jealous.
People are jealous, okay. Sukadeva Goswami has a different meaning. Friends. So it is said the living entity enters into the Grahastha ashrama is filled of fruitive activity, and unless that desire to enjoy the fruitive life is completely burnt up, he returns again and again like the weeds among the crop. So this fruitive activity is what it's compared here to the crops, the weeds here. And the next as 3b, in these bowers he is always disturbed by the biting mosquitoes. Next sloka, in this next line it is said that in these bowers the conditioned soul is always disturbed by the cruelly biting mosquitoes. In bracket Prabhupada writes envious people. So what does it mean?
People who are jealous of your success.
People who are jealous of your success. Okay, very good. So there are always people who are ready to give a trouble. Just like this merchant, now money has gone. Somehow he is trying to find the space under the grass and creep and somewhere here and there. But this is a fruitive activities which will go unless and until we have that desire. And the next is that when he is sitting there thinking that I will get some happiness, suddenly one mosquito comes and gives troubles. So similarly, Prabhu is saying that we might be busy in our activities, but there are people who are envious and trying to give troubles. Okay, what could be the other meaning? Unfulfilled desire was the previous part of that shloka. Mosquitoes, biting mosquitoes.
Intermittent troubles.
Troubles coming from another living entities. Adi Bhautika Klesha. So our body may give difficulties or challenges, but on top of that there are difficulties coming from other living entities. And then while doing all those things, it is said sometimes he sees an imaginary palace in the forest, which is called as Gandharvapura. So now you see the situation of this merchant. The merchant is going through there. There are mosquitoes who are biting. He was thinking that he will sell all these goods. He will get happiness. He did not get happiness. All this money got plundered. Mosquitoes are to give trouble here. And now he is imagining that there is a palace, and that palace is like a Gandharvapura palace. So what does it mean? Exactly. Temporary happiness. We might be thinking that, oh, we'll imagine that if I have this sense object, I will be the happiest person. If I have a house, only if I have a house, I will be the happiest person. Only if I have a job, I will be the happiest person. Only if I have a good spouse, husband or wife, I will be the happiest person. Only if I get a promotion, I will be the happiest person. Only if I have a Mercedes Benz, I will be happy. So the mind is giving all these kind of imaginary things because the mind is absorbed in all these fruitive activities, lusty desire. He sees this material world as a permanent where he drinks, he eats, and he does other things. And being overly attached, he chases after the sense objects just like a deer chase the mirage in the forest. The next line of this third shloka. And not only that he is seeing the imaginary palace, he is actually bewildered by seeing a fleeting flame or a ghost which appears like a meteor in the sky. So now not only is he seeing the imaginary palace, but now he is seeing a ghost. So what does it mean? Ghost is compared to here. Sorry? Not well. Meteor. Meteor, which looks like a meter.
Fear to lose the pleasure.
Fear of losing pleasure. Okay.
Fear of missing out.
What did Prabhu say? No.
Just like cloud appear and down.
In Bhagavatam, Parikshit Maharaj actually talks about the places, 4 places. Kali said that there are no people in this age of early beginning of the Kali Yuga where the people are indulging in the 4 activities. He gave him another place, gold, and that is where Sukadeva Goswami is comparing that gold to the ghost. And the next shloka, it continues that his intelligence is victimized by home, wealth, relative, and so forth, and he runs from one place to another in search of success. What is that? As if we are not going through all the situation. It's alien to all of us, and we do not know. It's so pin drop silence here.
Like how we we try to in attempt to be happy.
So what we do for search of happiness, Mataji? Thank you very much. What do you do for the search of happiness? More money.
Look for more success.
Family, getting married, or maybe building wealth.
Building, accumulating wealth. Anchoring for more and more. Building a house, taking a loan from ICICI, SDFC. Sorry? Meeting new people. Meeting new people, okay.
Showing off in front of relatives.
Show off in front of that. So this is how we have all this platform to show off. Okay, very nice. So here Sukadeva Goswami says that this merchant who is compared to the living entity who is absorbed in finding the residential quarters, he's busy finding the water. Now water is very precious in Bangalore today, by the way, and riches to maintain his body. Thus he forgets everything and perpetually he runs around in the forest of material existence to find the happiness from one body to another body, thinking that I will get happiness in this body, if not to the next body, 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 and then we continue the cycle of birth and death. I mean, it's very, sometimes we laugh on that, but actually this is the situation of all of us going through the cycle of birth and death, looking for that happiness which is so imaginary, so virtual. Actually, today's word about all the virtual or fictitious in imaginary. So that is the 4.1. And then the 4.2, he says that sometimes his eyes are covered by the dust of the whirlwind, thus blinded he cannot see where to go and what he is doing. What is it compared to? So what generally the living entity gets blinded that he doesn't even then understand anything else? Maya. In the form of money, material happiness, pride manifests into the other things. Sorry? Power. We get blinded by power. If you want to taste a person, just give him money and power. Power corrupts everything in this material world. Huh? Only power is enough. Money also doesn't need. Only power.
Lot of Lakshmi without Vishnu is a problem.
A lot of Lakshmi without the association of Lord Vishnu. Okay. Sukadeva Goswami says, and this Maya in the form of opposite sex, he sees the beauty of the opposite sex and completely blinded by that, and that desire to have that object, he forgets all the rules and regulation, and he disobey all the rules and regulation just to have that object of the sense object. And he does not know that this disobedience is actually witnessed by all the devatas. He is thinking that just like the cat is actually drinking the milk, thinking, closing the eyes that nobody is watching, but the living entity is thinking that nobody is watching, but there are devatas who are always their witness to witness the activities that we are actually doing, thinking that nobody is watching. And then what happened? He does not know that his disobedience is witnessed by the different demigods, and punishment is awaiting him for the poor fellow in the future. Next, 5th chapter. To acquire water, he runs after mirage. So simple. Illusory happiness. We all actually running for that illusory happiness. That one after this, one after other, one after this, one after this. We are thinking that if I get this in this material life, I will be the happiest person. Person who are in school, they are told by their appa, amma, father, mother, dad or mom, if you get a good mark in 10th or 12th, and some smile I can see the children, young children, and they are told that if you get that, you will be the happiest person on this earthly planet. Poor guys actually go through that into the machine of the sugar cane, and the last minute the drop is actually taken, still they are pushed and thinking that they will be the happiest person. And then what happens? No, this is just beginning. And then you have to get the entrance exam, and that's the next thing. After that, you have to get the IITs or IMs or whatever the institute. After that, you have to get a job in Google and Amazon. You will be the happiest person. 6-digit, 7-digit package, and the life begins. That at the end of the Bollywood movie, hereafter they lived happily.
But Prabhuji, you are demoralized the new generation.
No.
This word.
No, but the point here is that it's not the question of demoralizing. The question of understanding the fact and working for the purpose with the higher purpose. We are not saying that don't do this, all this stuff, but work for this, all those things, but keep in mind that what is this for all those things. We actually forgot the purpose of all those things. The purpose is to actually connect with our Supreme Personality of Godhead. Arjun was actually fighting there. Krishna did not say. In fact, Arjun gave a proposal that I will leave everything and go to the forest. What did our Bhagavan Sri Krishna say? What did Bhagavan Krishna say? He said that fight. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu 8.7. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmaram yuddhacha. So we are looking for happiness, but we are looking for happiness in the wrong place. So we have to, what we are doing today in this material world is that we are forgetting Krishna and finding the happiness in this material world. So what we have to do, that we have to find the happiness bringing Krishna in the center of our life. Anything else, srama eva hi kevalam. So sometimes when you go to the doctor will actually tell a problem. It's not the demoralizing. Doctor is telling the fact. This is the problem that you have. You must take care of that. You have lower back problem, you have throat problem, you have this problem, you have that problem. It's not to demoralizing, but telling, because we are actually blinded. We are blinded by the happiness, thinking that this is what actually, and we do not know that the reality is just coming. So we have to be bright open to that. We have to open our eyes to this reality. But underlying principle is that you may do all those things, but just bring Krishna into the center. So Lord Krishna says that you fight. In fact, you have to do your duty. But what you do? Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmaram yuddhacha. You bring Krishna in the center of your life. And that is what the whole purpose. Prabhupada did not say that you forget everything. He said bring Krishna in your center. But we also should know, Prabhu, that the reality. Sometimes it is also important that we think that, oh, everything is cool and happy things, but we have to be understanding that the reality is something different. Okay, we'll continue that. So after the water. Then the 5th shloka continues. Sometimes his heart is pained by the hearing the sounds of the owls and invisible crickets. The cricket is not the match, but the cricket is a insects. So what does it mean? He's pained by hearing the sound of the owls and the invisible crickets. Yes, he is actually aggrieved. All those things are told that you will be happy and all things, but in reality, you see that what happens? Prabhupada says that we have one devotee from US, he came 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 5 weeks ago. He said that we struggle so hard in this material world for that little happiness, but the struggle that we go in this material world is so much of struggle in this material world. So sometimes we are actually pained, aggrieved by the chastisement of his enemies, governments, and with the harsh word, that finally our heart actually become saddened when we hear all those things. Then sometimes he takes the shelter of the impious trees that have no fruits or flowers. Impious trees that have no fruits and flowers.
Taking shelter of materialistic people.
Taking shelter of wealthy men. Very good. So Sukadeva Goswami says that when his all pious credits are finished, he takes the shelter of wealthy man, the living dead, who cannot help him in this life or next life. Then what happened? This merchant, sometimes, so because of he became so saddened, he jumps into a shallow river. What does he do? Sinful people. Okay, very good. What else? Attempt to suicide. Okay, to some degree maybe. So when this man, living entity, cannot arrange for his own maintenance, then he tries to exploit his own father or son. That is what is compared to that. Then what happens? Sometimes he begs food from others. That is 6 next. So what does it mean? Yes. So when he cannot arrange for his own maintenance, then what he does? He borrows from his father or sons, he steals, and then he suffers from the burning heat of a forest fire. So while going through all those things, he is suffering from the burning heat of the forest fire. So what does it mean?
Hare Krishna
The family life has nothing favorable for perpetual happiness. He is burned by the fire of lamentation and condemns himself as being unfortunate and impious soul who has taken birth in this material life. Next, he becomes sad because his wealth is plundered by excess. His wealth is plundered by excess. Now, who takes? Now, other than our family members and other things, who else is there to take away all our money? Yes, exactly. Government official turns against him, takes away all his wealth, then he loses all his enthusiasm and appears without the symptoms of life. Becomes so sad, this poor gentleman. And the next, seventh, sometimes he imagines a palatial city. He enters it with his family, enjoys for a moment as if fully satisfied. Shloka number 7. He thinks himself fully satisfied as if this is possible. It's very difficult, I think. Probably you may not be able to imagine. So Sukadeva Goswami says, so he's going through all those difficult situations, then he has family and enjoys for a moment, just like sometimes you see that the living entity is chased by the lion, and now he actually about to fall into the well, and then he holds on to some branch, and the branch is actually being there are two rats who are actually biting that branch, and that two rats are nothing but the white rat and the black rat, and when he see on the top there is a tiger who is actually chasing him, and when he see down he sees there a snake, serpent with his mouth wide open, and now in that moment he gets a moment of happiness, having as a drop of honey, and they said, wow, that is the happiness. So here that kind of happiness, and here Sukadeva Goswami said that he dreams that his dead father or grandfather has come back and he feels happy. He dreams that his grandfather, great grandfather has come and he feels happiness for that. Shloka number 8. Sometimes he wants to climb the mountain, but his feet become pierced by thorn. So what does it mean? Obstacles.
When we want to achieve something big in that way.
Very good. So Mataji is saying that sometimes we have to achieve something great, there are a lot of obstacles. So Sukadeva Goswami says, the shloka number 18 on the 14th chapter, he says that in a household life, one is ordered to execute many sacrifices, many yajnas like a marriage ceremony, and they are very expensive and troublesome to execute in this material world. So that is the difficulty. So he wanted to climb the mountains, which is very difficult, but his foot is actually pierced by thorns. Same shloka. Next is that the same merchant, overwhelmed by hunger, he becomes angry at his family member. And I think there's a direct meaning here now. What happens when you are hungry? Then you becomes angry. So due to the bodily hunger and thirst, if you don't give the food to this conditioned soul, he becomes impatient and angry with his own son, daughter, wife, mother, father, everybody, overwhelmed by the hunger and thirst. Shloka number 9. This merchant is continuing. I could see the emotions on the devotee's face. Oh my God. And actually it is all of us actually going through all this situation. Shloka number 9. The merchant, now in the due course of time, the merchant is swallowed by a python and loses his consciousness. He's swallowed by python and he loses his consciousness. Today is a very tough exam.
Maybe because of that thirst and hunger, he is
Diseases, Prabhu is saying, thirst and hunger, then he's not able to understand. Then what happens? He's getting angry on his wife. Sorry? He will fall sick, okay. Okay, so
Gets into wrong association.
wrong association. Okay, so Sukadeva Goswami had different things. In a sleep, people remain in a darkness of ignorance and cannot understand what is going on. Just like he's lost his consciousness. So similarly, we actually in ignorance and we do not know what's happening. Shloka number 9, the next part. Sometimes the poisonous snakes bite him and he blindly falls into the dark well of hellish life. So now there are people who, envious, who snakes bite him, and because of that he falls into the hellish life. Bad habits, ups and downs in life. So here Sukadeva Goswami says, Shloka number 21 of 14th chapter, through the tricks of envious enemies, he falls just like a snake. The envious people, because of getting trapped into that envious people, he loses his prestigious position, and because of that he is not able to sleep properly, losing his intelligence, he is troubled at his heart. Shloka number 10. Sometimes he finally ordained a little honey, but then it is taken by someone else. Now he's about to get the honey, but now he's taken by someone else. What does it mean? Okay. Here it said, Sukadeva Goswami says that finally he steals money and he escapes punishment. He does everything, but then at the last minute another man comes and he takes away all his money. In this way, money never stays in one place and always remains the property of our Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. So finally this person is about to get the drop of that honey, and suddenly somebody comes and takes away that honey. Shloka number 11, and that is what is our today's shloka. So in the today's shloka, which is a direct meaning, so anybody remembers what shloka number 1 to 10, maybe a few points before we go to the shloka number 11. The story of merchant. So any points, few points. Merchant enters the forest. Just to get happiness.
But on the way he is suffering.
He does not get happiness. Suffering. Pricked by thorns. Illusory happiness at the moment. Travels from one living entity to another, taking a birth, thinking that we'll get the happiness.
We say trouble from other.
Trouble from other living entities, Adi Bhautika. Blinded by Maya. And doing all this circus exercise, is about to get the drop of that, and finally it is taken away. Unfortunate situation of all of us. But Bhagavatam gives a solution for all of this, Prabhu. And that solution is what we will discuss today, if time permits. So now, today, not only that, now today this merchant is going through the difficult situations. And what are the difficult situations? Not only one. Sita, Atapa, Vata and Varsha. Sita, Atapa, Vata, Varsha. So that is what Govinda Swami, Govinda Das is actually singing, that this living entity is going through all these difficulties, and Prabhupada actually embellishes that, saying that not only he says that is a cold, but he says freezing cold. Not only he says that heat, he says scorching heat. He does not say the wind, he says strong wind. And finally excessive rainfall, incessant rainfall. And because of all those things, this living entity is going through all these natural disturbances, freezing cold, scorching heat, incessant rain and strong wind, and he's counteracting all the time, but he's unable to do that, and he becomes very unhappy. That is the today's shloka, part 1 of this today's shloka, that he goes through all those things, he becomes very unhappy. So if you see here, living entities, all of us now, few months ago there was a winter, now the summer is actually peak time, just beginning of February and March, and you can imagine April and May what would happen. So now these things goes on, summer, winter, cold, all those things will come, and the living entities, our immediate reaction is to how to counteract all those things. Maybe we can switch on the fan, switch on the AC, or put on the heaters in the winter time, and all those difficulties, are put on the warm clothes, and all those all this counteract. But here Jad Bharat is actually telling to he's telling to Rahugana that even if you counteract all these miseries, you will never be, because Bhagavad Gita, our Lord says that, what is that shloka? Matra svarshastu kaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkhada agama pai nityo tam titikshasva bharata. So in that 2.14 shloka, Lord Sri Krishna actually begins Bhagavad Gita that one must learn to tolerate all these difficulties without getting disturbed. So once Srila Prabhupada was in Vrindavan and the fan was actually on, and Srila Prabhupada pointing to the fan and saying that this is what actually we do. We try to counteract all these difficulties or miseries coming from natural disturbances, and Prabhupada says that, but all our endeavors are actually futile, because we will be never happy while counteracting all these difficulties or all this change in the season. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna, in fact, these difficulties are not only Adi Daivika Kleshas, there are difficulties coming from Adi Bhautika Klesha and Adhyatmika Kleshas. So one try to counteract all these miseries, but we will never be happy just by counteracting these miseries. And in the Gita course, we had a story of a Pujari, Kali Pujari. You have heard the story about that Kali Pujari? We have heard during the Gita course. This Kali Pujari, he was actually worshipping Kali, and Kali Mata got actually pleased with his sacrifice or whatever tapasya he did. And when she was very happy, she gave him a benediction, and the benediction that whatever you aspire or desire, that you will get it. But there was a part B, and he was so happy by hearing that, he did not hear the part 2 of that benediction. Then this gentleman comes home, and now he says, okay, he asked a benediction from Kali that I want a car, Maruti car. So then next moment, car appears in front of his house. He's very happy, and he becomes so happy, but that happiness did not last for a long time, because he saw neighbor got his 2 cars, and both are Mercedes Benz. He is not able to understand, and now rather he said that now he has a car, Maruti car, he is not happy, but the neighbors had a Mercedes Benz, all his happiness actually gone. It became very disturbed, very distressed. Then next time he said, okay, let me try the second attempt. In the second attempt, he asked Kali Devi that give me a big palace. And a moment on ACS main road, he has a big palace there. He was very happy. Now he's about to do the house warming, and then he came to know that his neighbor got 2 big palaces. Now this gentleman was from the IT background. He used his logic. There is something is happening here. If I ask for one, the neighbor is getting double of that, the same happiness. Now we are so envious of that. Then he said, okay, let me ask something that this poor fellow will actually get into difficulty. What did he ask next time? He asked Kali Devi, please take off my one eye. Then what happened? The poor fellow, the neighbor took 2 eyes. So this is the situation that we have Adi Daivika, Adi Bhautika and Adhyatmika Klesha. So this all those difficulties will come in our life. But what we have to do here, how to tolerate all these difficulties, Lord Krishna says that if we have to tolerate these difficulties, but we can tolerate these difficulties only when we keep Krishna in the center of our life. If we keep Krishna away from our life, then even if you try to have all modern amenities, all the modern gadgets to mitigate all kinds of these natural disturbances, one will never be happy. Because savai pumsa paro dharma ethor bhakte adoksaje ahituki apratihata Yayatma suprasidati. One can become happy only in this material life by engaging in the devotional service of a Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. So, somehow or the other, this material world, we go through all these difficulties, and somehow or the other we come to know that, or at least realizes that we'll be actually very fortunate that we, this living world or this material world is not the place of happiness. There is a struggle, one after the other struggle. And somehow or the other, by the mercy of Founder Acharya, by the mercy of devotees, if we come to conclusion that this material world is not the place for happiness, then we will actually try to find the happiness in the right place at the right time, and that is nothing but engaging in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, no matter what happens, however the situation that we try to counteract, but one cannot counteract the situations keeping Krishna away from the situation. But if you bring Krishna in the center of that situation, one can actually counteract the difficulties, because one by naturally become tolerant, dhira, then he can actually tolerate once we have Krishna in the center. So here in the 11th shloka, Jad Bharat is actually telling the 2 points. The first point is telling that one can not become happy by counteracting all these difficulties. Now somebody may say that, does it mean that we now stand in front, down in the sun rays and get parched by the scorching heat? Does it mean that we should not take some practical steps? No. So what does it mean then? We should be?
Reaction to the situation.
This body is Krishna's property.
Body is Krishna's property.
Using the service of Krishna than doing his hostility and sentimental.
So this body, nothing belongs to us. Even body does not belong to us. What all we have in this material world is only the free will. And this body is to be used in the service of Krishna. So we must protect this body. It doesn't mean that we stand in the scorching heat because nothing. Anyway, there is no happiness. This morning we heard that there is no happiness in counteracting this, and let's stand in the 45 degrees centigrade. And then, no, that's not what it means. It means that the body has to be protected, but when the body is protected, it's not for the sense gratification, but for the higher purpose, and the higher purpose is to be engaged in the service of Lord Sri Krishna. And in the next part, which is the 11th shloka, it talks about the envy. Now, how does this envy? So first we talked about these counteracting the natural disturbances, and the second part it is talking about the envy. So how does this envy come? The envy creeps. Is there anyone in this material life we have not experienced envy? Is there anyone who has not experienced? Or the other way around, let's put it. Is there anyone who have experienced envy in this material world? That is the nature of this material world. But how does this envy comes into this? How does the envy creeps in our consciousness? The envy creeps in our consciousness. Jivere swarup hai Krishnera Nityana. We are actually eternally, constitutionally servant of Lord Sri Krishna. But when we forget our relationship with Krishna and we come to this material world, that we wanted to be a controller of this material world, and that is the totally artificial, unnatural, unreal, incompatible situation that we actually try to be controller. Because if we are supposed to be the servant, and if the servant try to become a controller, it is absolutely incompatible situation. Srila Prabhupada gives the example of the fish out of water. When the fish is out of water, no matter what happens, he will never be happy, because that is not his platform, that is not his realm. His realm into the water, and that is where he would be happy. So similarly, living entity cannot become a controller. That's Lord Krishna says that you cannot become a controller in the spiritual world. Go and attempt in the material world. He wishes us all the best. He says, go and enjoy. Try to attempt there to become a happy. In fact, Shvetaswar Upanishad it says that Nitya Nityanam Chetanasya Chetanam Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadhati Kamam. There are many living entities, but the one living entity is actually maintaining all other living entities. That means he is the one who is supposed to be the controller of all the living entities, not all other living entities. He is the one who is maintaining all of us. So somehow or the other, because of this conflict of trying to be controller or maintainer or enjoyer of in this living entity, the most terrible of all the qualities that emerges in your consciousness called as envy. And that conflicting situation happens because we cannot tolerate seeing somebody else having more than us or doing better than us, because of the situation that I wanted to be controller, I cannot be controller. If somebody is doing better, somebody is having more than what I have, what happens? Envy comes. What are the different examples of envies? How does envy manifest? Position, authority, money, assets, facilities, degrees, name, position, fame, all those things. Good look, looks beautiful, fame, knowledgeable, he's expert in Python, machine learning, artificial intelligence, I don't know anything. So you get an envy of all those things. Oh, he knows the neural network, he can actually solve the toughest problem, he can train the model and he can predict that. Even if you don't know that, you can actually get envious of that. These are the examples. Anything else?
Prabhuji knows so many slokas, I don't know.
Oh yeah, he knows 700 slokas. I don't even know the 7 slokas. How can the envy manifest?
Rather than hearing Bhagavatam, you are thinking, oh God,
I don't know English. Oh, that Mataji cooks so beautiful, so delicious. I don't know. Envious of that.
So, the devotee chanting 16 rounds, doing more service.
The devotee chanting 16 rounds. He's morning to evening in Bhakti Center. I come only 10:25 before Prasadam. Yes, bro. He has lot of services. I am not doing anything. And in fact,
He has no services, I have no.
Prabhuji has passed by this and Hare Krishna with that devotee, if you look at it.
Always given a palatable service and
that devotee is assigned a lot of services. Unfortunately, nobody is assigning any services to it.
particular service.
That particular service.
He is always asked to preach, I am always asked to wash vessels.
So the envy can manifest in a different ways. It can manifest in a different way. So what is the difference? Srila Prabhupada, and definitely many times we will actually use the envy and jealousy, interactively, but interchangingly. So what is the difference between envy and jealousy?
Jealousy just feeling that they have something, we feel negative, but we don't feel ill. Envy is like going one step ahead, it's like, uska bhi kharab.
So it's like,
According to the language perspective, what you are saying closer to the envy is that he has, which I wanted to have, but I do not have. I become envious of that. And jealousy is that I have, but I don't want others to have that. And that is the jealousy. So because now, in fact, 9.22 will actually address that, the jealousy. How can we address the jealousy? Ananya chintayanto mam e jana parya upasate tesham nitya abhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahayam. Why we are jealous? Because I have this name, I have this money, that others should not get it. And that is the jealousy. So now, but how do we protect what we have? How do we protect what we have? Just now we quoted the sloka. Yogakshemam. It is the only one, he can actually protect us. We cannot protect. No matter how much rich, how much knowledgeable, how much things that we have, it can be taken away in a fraction of a moment. Only the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna can protect all those what we have and what we do not have. He can give us yogakshemam vahamyam. So we can actually take a shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that is the only. So envious, why we are actually envious of everyone? If you see the underlying principle that we are actually envious of Lord Sri Krishna. Somebody say, how is it that I am envious of Lord Sri Krishna?
Because we want to be very beautiful, very rich, and very famous. All those six.
The first thing what Mataji is saying, the matter of fact is that we came into this material world itself shows that we are actually envious of Krishna. And when we are envious of Krishna, we are actually envious of all other living entities, and it is just a matter of circumstances that enviousness will actually manifest. Oh, he has a fan, I do not have a fan. He has AC, I do not have AC. He has a car, I do not have a car. So all these are manifestation of that underlying principle that actually we are envious of Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. And you can see that how our scripture focuses on this very simple point, that the envy is actually foundation. And once we have envy, all other bad qualities will actually manifest. So envy is the foundation of everything bad that can manifest within us. And our scripture focuses on so many things, so much of that, not to have this envy. And you can see that very simply in Arjun, when he understood the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna said that you can understand the message of Bhagavad Gita. Why? You are anasuya. You are not envious of me. He did not say, oh, you are a Sanskrit scholar, you can understand Bhagavad Gita. He did not say, you are a son of Pandu, you can understand Bhagavad Gita. He did not say, you have a very beautiful body, you can understand Bhagavad Gita. He did not say, you have biceps, triceps, six, all those things that you can understand Bhagavad Gita. He did not say that you are a charismatic preacher, you can understand Bhagavad Gita. He did not say, you are expert manager, you can get the lot of services done from different devotees. That, no. He said, you can understand Bhagavad Gita because Bhakto se mi sakha cheti, you are my devotee and you are non-envious of anyone. So you can understand that not all the material qualification can actually make us understand Krishna or Bhagavad Gita. It is only non-enviousness can actually take us to the Supreme Lord. If we have a non-enviousness in our heart, the spirituality we cannot even touch spirituality. Spirituality is very, very far. That is why Srila Prabhupada would always say that even becoming a devotee is like a far distance reality. Become a gentleman. First become a gentleman, and that is the launching pad to become a bhakta. So we think that we are actually bhakta. Now I can know so many shlokas, but actually bhakta is a very, very, very rare, very far distant situation. We are not even a gentleman. Our heart is not even free from enviousness. What to talk about the enviousness in the material world? We have enviousness within our community. When the devotees get name, fame, we actually become enviousness. If a new devotee actually get mercy, we have no problem. The biggest problem is that when the peer devotee get the mercy of somebody, we cannot tolerate. And that is the fact. That is the fact. So once one devotee, His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj gives that example that he used to come to the temple for many years in the US, and he said that, and once he was asked, why can't you become a regular member of community? He said, in your community, they give so much of mercy to the new person, but as soon as he become a member, nobody actually respects. So we are very good to give mercy to the other people, but we are envious of within our community. So we can understand that the whole Mahabharata was on the simple point, the simple reason that the Mahabharata was that because of the enviousness of Duryodhana. Duryodhana was, he couldn't tolerate that because Yudhishthira Maharaj was very kind, Yudhishthira Maharaj was very detached, Yudhishthira Maharaj was very loving. Everyone liked Yudhishthira Maharaj because he was like a selfless servant, he was like a father to everyone. And the better his qualities, the better the burning within for Duryodhana. Similarly for all of us, if our peer devotees gets name, fame, mercy, we cannot tolerate. Just like that, if any person who actually get, or suppose in IT, some educated person get name and fame, farmer will not be envy of him, but another educated person will get envious of him, right? Because the peer getting the name and fame for the peer, tolerating that is very, very difficult. So Duryodhana was actually envious. He couldn't tolerate. He tried so many things to kill all those things. In fact, this enviousness can go to the any level in the material life. There was 1960s, the young people founded peace movement, and the peace movement, the reason was to bring the peace among all those things. And within that peace movement, there was enviousness, because some people was very successful to preach the message of peace formula. But Prabhupada says that the real peace formula is Bhagavad Gita 5.29. Bhoktaram yajna tapasa sarva loko maheshwara surudam sarva bhutanam jnatvam mam shantim ruchati. The real peace is when we understand Krishna is the controller, Krishna is the enjoyer, and Krishna is the bhokta. Then only we can actually, there are many things, but in fact I'll just end with something. One professor of economics, he did his PhD, and his understanding or his conclusion of that he could synthesize the whole thing. And what was that? He said that everyone has unlimited desire, but there are limited sources to enjoy that, and that's why there is a competition and enviousness in the material world. Very simple. The whole summary of his thesis was that there are unlimited desire for everyone, but there is a limited resources, and that is where there is a competition and there is enviousness within the living entities. But if we accept Krishna as the enjoyer, Krishna as the controller, then we are happy to see that. Srila Prabhupada says that Vaishnava means no envy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has shown by so many examples that how the Vaishnavas were very, very happy among themselves when they see that other Vaishnavas actually getting the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They are very happy. You can see Radha Rani and Lalita Sakhi. When Radha Rani is actually sitting next to Krishna on a swinging on that jhula, when she saw that some new Sakhis or Gopi comes, she will actually bring her and sit next to Krishna. She wants that she should also get the happiness what she is going. So that is the nature of the spirituality. But we all, somehow or the other, we have to see, open our heart and see that the seed of that enviousness. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has shown that Srila Prabhupada instruction for all of us, particularly in this purport, he says that this Krishna conscious movement aims at creating the atmosphere of non-envy. So what is the instruction for all of us from Srila Prabhupada? That we have to create the society of non-enviousness. And when we actually create the society of non-enviousness, we set an example to the society that how people coming together with the one purpose, and that one purpose in the center is to please Krishna, to please our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada. And of course, it is not possible to become a Krishna consciousness unless and until we have a envy in our heart. So message of Srila Prabhupada for all of us, that let's take this message of Srimad Bhagavatam, which Srila Prabhupada is giving all of us, and spread this message of Srimad Bhagavatam to all over the world, all over the country, all over the people. So this message that we have to spread. First, we have to understand the message and the teaching of Srila Prabhupada, message and teaching of Lord Sri Krishna, and give to others. And that is what Srila Prabhupada is saying, that not only once, Prabhupada is saying twice here, is that non-enviousness is only possible among the Vaishnava community. But not everybody will actually take Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada writes here, not everybody will take actually Krishna consciousness. But those who actually take Krishna consciousness, one must create that society of non-enviousness, keeping Krishna in the center. So our service to Srila Prabhupada, that some or the other, that we all are representing Srila Prabhupada, and in this way we can distribute this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam by through distribution. Rishabh Prabhu, what is that we can do the service to Srila Prabhupada? By representing Srila Prabhupada, by distributing the knowledge given in his book. And that is what Prabhu likes, that please help those who want to distribute Srila Prabhupada books, but through preaching and by living the knowledge that Srila Prabhupada has given. What? By living that knowledge. Not just keeping the knowledge in our head, but living by that knowledge what Srila Prabhupada has given, by creating a society of non-enviousness. So we'll end here with some practical tips. Once Sukhava Mataji was here, and she said that she has written a book, has beautiful books about that, and she has given very beautiful practical steps for all of us. And there are 3 steps actually she talks that how we can actually overcome this envious. Of course, the principle, the philosophy is that having Krishna in the center. But first, she said, what are the voice of the envious? There are three steps she talks about that. The first step is that identify what are the voices of all those enviousness. What are the voices of enviousness? If you understand, underlying principle of envy is comparing ourselves with others, evaluating ourselves with others. So what are the underlying principle of envy? That, so what are the different voices? Comparison, evaluation, judgmental about ourselves. I am not enough. If you see that, if why we are envious, because I am not enough. He has a more. I am worse than others. He is a better than me. I don't have as much as he has. There is not enough to make me happy. So these are the different voices. Sukhava Mataji says that actually prop up in our mind. Oh, I do not have, I am not enough, I am very low. All those are the voices of envy. Next step, she says that the steps of practice. Now, what could be the practice? Now, if you see here, we are thinking ourselves to be very low here. We are not able to appreciate what actually we got from Lord Sri Krishna. And the second step, Sukhava Mataji says that the step of practice is the self-appreciation. What is the second step? Because the envy is all about evaluating our place and our asset, the healing, Sukhava Mataji says that healing starts with learning to appreciate ourselves and our gifts, what we have got in our life. We forget what we got and we compare others and evaluate ourselves and think that I do not have enough. So that is why Sukhava Mataji said, what is the second step of practice is the self-appreciation. The self-appreciation is that we actually appreciate what Lord Krishna has given, because we can see the moon, we forget all the things there, but we can actually focus on that black spot on the moon. What I do not have, we focus on that rather than focusing I do have. What are the mercy, what are the ways that actually Krishna already given benedictions in terms of our education, in terms of whatever it could be. Focus on what we have rather than, for that Sukhava Mataji says that we have to appreciate ourselves. And the third thing, she says that muscles to exercise is the simplicity. Because if you see our house, if there is a clutter everything, and if you clean our house, we feel a sense of freedom. So similarly, there is a lot of clutter in our consciousness, and if we actually remove that, all the things, make simple things, keep it as simple as possible, you can see that we can focus more on Krishna. When our consciousness is cluttered with so many things, we want more and more and more. Rather than simplifying our life, we can actually have more time for Krishna. So, and not only that, clearing the emotional upsets, emotions with the others, free ourselves to focus on Krishna. And that is the third step of muscles to exercise, simplicity. What was the first step? Voices. Identify what are those voices. Second step, appreciation, self-appreciation. Third is that simplicity. So when come to the self-appreciation is not to become pride of all things. Appreciate what we have received the blessing from Lord Sri Krishna and appreciate that, thanking Krishna. And the final, last but not least, is that confidence in a Krishna. As we open our space, we can get access to the confidence to Lord Sri Krishna, and He will provide what we need, and we will experience that in abundance. Yoga Kshemam Vahan. And if we do not resolve our enemy, we cannot actually access spirituality. We'll end with that. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. If there is one question or comment we can take, otherwise it's already late. Okay. Yes, Prabhu. We have microphone. Yeah, please.
First time attending this session.
Okay.
What question, like I understood what you are talking about, but when this materialistic world will be ending?
Oh, when this materialistic end? Oh. Bhagavad Gita and scripture actually talks about that in material world. If you see everything in this Vedic way, the time is actually cyclic. It begins with Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga and Kali Yuga. And Kali Yuga is mentioned, the duration of Kali Yuga, 4,32,000 years. And we have just passed 5,000 years. 4 lakh, unfortunately, and you are coming the first time, welcome to our session. So thanks for joining. We can understand the degradation of the society in this age of Kali. What has actually British ruled India for 150 years. Muslims did that, not too much of degradation. TV did too much of degradation, and now so much of degradation happening with our friend. So then it is just, now you can spin in the span of last 10 years, the degradation happening. And at least personally, I am not able to imagine what would happen 4,27,000 years past after that. Just cannot imagine. So to answer your question, Satya Yuga, Kali Yuga will end, and again the cycle will go up. So that is why we have to practice God consciousness ourselves and help others and elevate the consciousness of the whole society. And our dear father of nation Gandhiji said that be the change that you want to be. So that if you want to make the change in the society, let first ourselves make that change. And when we become the catalyst of that change, then we can actually bring the change in the society. So welcome to our session. So please join. We have every Sunday this kind of session and many more. We will announce that. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama.